Welcome to Invest, talk about investing, finance, first development. For today's video items only, the investment I'm going to talk about today will be Bitcoin, ticker BTC. So it's been a while since I last covered Bitcoin, as I typically just cover Ethereum or sometimes selective stocks, if you may, right? And during my lunchtime, I was reading the news, just like reading up on the technical analysis as well, just to keep myself up to speed with respect to, how we psychologically trending so far. What are some of the macro factors that's been driving Bitcoin ever since the surge that we've had, right? When we're at the bottom, in the recent time frame, hitting that $29,800 mark, and then subsequently pump up to at one time, I would say a couple of days ago, to the $42,600. And right now we're kind of normalizing back down to close to about like the $40,000 mark, like $39,808 mark, trading on a sideways fashion as of today, right? So we go through technical analysis in a more of an updated perspective, just to understand like how we trending going forward, right? Are we going to see more of a sell-off, or are we going to see more of a surge coming after the B word summit? That was the main macro catalyst that drove this whole surge that we've been experiencing so far. So is this more like a dead cat bounce that we're currently seeing right now, or are we going to see more of a leap up to continue the bull cycle that we have been enduring so far? So stay tuned, stick around, let's make some money. Moving on to the technical analysis for Bitcoin, ticker BTC. I'm recording as of basically 1 p.m. on Eastern time. Currently trading like the $39,829, up about 0.05% so far. You can see that with respect to the B word summit, we hit all the way down to the level of like close to about 29,000, which comparable to the level that we tested before on basically June 22nd. Right, and if you look backward a little bit more, we also had that one time on May 19th, and if you go back even further out, you understand that that was basically the bottom before the whole rally to the $64,900, right, that we tested back in basically January 27th, January 20th. And if you count that, like that was like a percolations before the whole rally, on basically on New Year, on January 1st, 2021. Right, so let's take a look at some more of a recent time frame, right? Ever since that B word summit, we got the confirmatory signal from Elon Musk that he's still currently holding Bitcoin. Obviously, Tesla's currently holding Bitcoin in balance sheets. And obviously, with respect to just like Jack Dorsey's endorsements and Cathie Wood's endorsement, I'm putting a price target of about what $450,000 for Bitcoin as a price target, like 3 to 5 years out. I think she said something about like 125,000 by the year end on 2021, and subsequently drove a lot of buying pressure. And then subsequently to that, a lot of investment banks like Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan start issuing or giving the offering to the private clients and institutional investors the option to have some exposure into crypto assets, right? With respect to the Great Trust BTC Trust as an ETF that's offered to the JP Morgan clients, and so is Goldman Sachs, which have been doing that for quite some time for a lot of the U.S. customers, but expanding to the European side of the nations to further capture that international growth dynamics going forward, right? So ever since that, we have been pumping up ever since, a lot of positive news consecutively. And recently, we have seen a lot of juxtaposition news comparing Bitcoin to Ethereum, and obviously, sandbagging the value proposition of Bitcoin as well, right? Which is the reason why we've been seeing some type of volatility and some selling pressure across the board, right? So that's the recent time frame based on the news, based on the macro dynamics in the recent time frame. So what's the foreshadow play going forward, right? So if you look at the MACD, you can see that we're slowly forming a curvature right now. And at the same time, RSI is still, close to being overbought at the moment. We depleted a little bit, obviously, with that red candle that kind of normalized things a little bit. But we are hovering between the levels, right? The $40,000 level, which is frankly just a psychological level, a flat number, 40,000, 45,000, like thousands, like the flat triple zeros numbers, right? But anything between there isn't really anything substantive, right? You could call maybe a $39,000 as a substantive level, but again, that's a flat number again, right? So when you have flat number, there isn't really any concrete ground. People just buy because, oh, that's a level that makes sense to buy because it's an easy number to know. but that doesn't really translate into substance, into the ground in a technical analysis perspective, right? The more true level based on historical trends is actually the $37,500 level, right? So I think the likelihood of us actually going back to the 37,500 would be actually pretty likely. I give this maybe a a 50-50 chance that we'll get there, knowing the fact that no, I would actually give this a 65% chance that we'll get there because of the fact that we are curving and RSI needs to deplete a little bit more, right? Contingent on no more like black swan positive news that's coming that will percolate Bitcoin to go even higher. And if we go higher, the next level leap up would be all the way to the 40, basically the 45,000, right? Which makes sense because that's a flat number again. But how likely is that going to be, right? Because of the fact that we are overstretched, we are overly bought already. So to propel even further, we could, but like that would be just a little bit of a stretch, and the risk will be so dramatically high that it would just incentivize the whales to dump you. Do you want to be in that side of the spectrum? I think not, right? I think you want to be buying at a level that's more risk averse, right? And the risk averse levels we have identified here so far, and the trends has not changed. I have not changed the chart at all historically. It's the 37,500 and the 34,500 dollars level, right? But if we break that, we go all the way to the 31, basically, right? And if you break the 31, you have a huge drop down all the way. Firstly, you will test maybe at the 28, but the more likelihood would be like 24, right? So something to be mindful of. I think the right level to dollar cost average in near term, if you want to get some skin in the game, would be the 37,500, which I think is coming very soon. And I think the London fork can potentially drive some anti-correlation effects to Bitcoin, which is a good thing because you can see based on the observations that we've had so far, like Bitcoin and Ethereum are slowly separating, that they are not trending in a comparable momentum anymore, which is great for obviously Bitcoin investors or Ethereum investors because they're not the same thing. Ultimately, you want each respective value proposition to propel and thrive going forward individually, not in a dependence type of relationship, right? You want them to be separate value proposition that they will grow, but not in a parallel level, but in their respective growth trajectory going forward, right? And that tells you a lot about the core value and the gravitas that the assets has, right? So it's a good sign for the I think overall crypto assets class, in terms of the whole commodity as well. But those are the levels that I would play and risk mitigate going forward if I was you. Right, just to recap all numbers in the technical analysis, with respect to the entry price level, I think we might want to cool off a little bit first in a technical perspective to get down ideally to the 37,500, which you will start incurring some of your chips into having some exposure from there. But I would not incur like all of your chips, maybe 10-15% of your chips. That would be great. And ideally at the 34,500, which is a very substantive level we've tested historically, and that should cool off the dynamic a little bit more before the next rally coming up, right? But if ideally we have even more of a severe sell-off because of just a lot of negative news, right? Ultimately, a lot of volatility can be driven by media affectation, right? So $31,000 can be a really nice level to dollar cost average at, right? I bought a lot at the 28,500, at the 3,100. I have not bought anything above that level so far. So if we see that again, I would deal want to be buying more, right? But ultimately, if you're long term wise, I am aligned with Kathy Woods and even Citibank. I think they have a price target of 150K by year end 2021. I'm gonna give you guys more of a conservative price projections of 10% corporate adoption, 138,000, 3.7 times your money if you buy the $37,500 level. Let's say further respect my technical analysis on Bitcoin, ticker BTC. I'm actually having lunch right now. It's my lunchtime, but I am such a, I feel like I haven't done Bitcoin analysis in a while and I want to be, thoughtful, and I know that it's been a very, very volatile times as well that people, would like to have a little bit more clarity into executing the price level. And that's why I want to be, blocking out maybe like 20% I mean, like 20 minutes of my lunchtime. I typically have like an hour lunch just to like read up on the news and stuff like that. But I want to just like be doing this so you guys, have that safe peace of mind, if you may. But again, feel free to ask me any questions. I am still gonna be working through the day. Just churning away, if you may, right? One of those workaholic mentality, if you may. But hopefully this is helpful, and feel free to give me a shout, and stay tuned for the next come up. Take care. Bye.